Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. At first glance, systems and processes might not seem like a very exciting topic, but trust me, you're going to be so glad you tuned in today to learn more about them because they really are the key to long-term success in your business. We think of systems and processes as important things that big companies have, but they provide a good foundation for any business, whether you're in your first year or two running your business solo or expanding and building a team to support you. If all of your how-tos are locked in your head, you can't delegate or outsource or scale easily. You'll always be busy, you'll always be reacting to things as they pop up, and you'll find it really difficult to take time off or even just focus on the parts of the business that you really enjoy. If you know you need systems, but you think they're too complicated to set up, this is the episode for you because I've got an amazing expert in to talk about how you can approach systems in a simple, straightforward way. You're going to love it. Michelle Broadbent is a business strategist who specializes in providing female business owners with smart, strategic solutions to transform the way they operate their business and life. With a 20-plus year career as a trusted advisor to female founders across an array of industries, including media, marketing, fashion, design, executive coaching, and training. She is passionate about seeing women succeed and has supported countless women as they step up from solopreneur to CEO in their business. Michelle is known for smart, strategic solutions that build thriving businesses and provide women with the freedom to enjoy what matters most in business and life. Prior to starting her business in 2016, she spent more than a decade in the media industry, and her superpower is being able to cut through the overwhelm and overdrive of running a business alone. As a voice of reason and a motivating force, her focus is on removing roadblocks and identifying the opportunities, structure, and resources to reset her client's business for life. Welcome, Michelle. I am so happy that you're here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Marissa. And thank you for that beautiful introduction too.
Oh, it's so well deserved. I saw you speak at an in-person event a couple of weeks ago and you blew my mind. And I've been working online for 10 plus years now. So I was like, oh, I know it all. And then I watched your presentation and I was like, you're right. I haven't done this yet. I do need to include this. What have I been thinking? So when I got in touch and I was like, come on the show, people will love you. I was so excited that you said yes. We're going to have so much fun today.
We are. Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh, I can't wait to jump in because I know you built your own successful business from scratch while you were raising a family, right? And I know a lot of our listeners are doing the same. So you get what it's like to do the juggle, to try and balance your business and your life. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started with your business and maybe what a couple of the challenges were that you faced?
Sure, Marissa. I'm really, really glad that you acknowledged the juggle because I think there's this trend where we're not supposed to call it a juggle. We're not supposed to, we're not juggling, we're blending. We're not blending. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
So the blend is bullshit. I think it isn't. I think all of us as mums who are building businesses know is that you are juggling all the time. And I was juggling right from the word go. So I've been running this business now for 6 years. And when I started, I was married and my ex-husband had his own very sort of thriving business, which took priority in our household. So I was the CEO, the chief of everything in the household. I was raising 2 small children who had only just started school. So my business looked very different back then. I was essentially doing work that I could do standing on my head with my hands tied behind my back because that was just how I had to operate. There wasn't a lot of space for me to create the business of my dreams, so to speak, because of all the other things that I was focused on. Fast forward 12 months, and my marriage fell apart. And so I found myself a single mum of 2 children and thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do here? Like, do I start looking for jobs on Seek, or do I really turn this business into the one that I truly want it to be by, stepping properly into my superpowers and doing the type of work that I knew that I was capable of and that people would value from me. But that was a big decision because there was risk involved in that, right? So it was going, well, do I take that risk, or do I go with what's kind of safe and go and get that corporate salary and, have my sick pay and my holiday pay and all those things that you give up as a business owner. And I remember at the time hearing an interview from the Barefoot Investor, and he said, he was talking about women, how that often when marriages break down, they come off on the back foot financially compared to men. And he said, way too many women fight for the family home, but what they should be fighting for is the dining table. In that, instead of going and getting this, these jobs where they have to earn crazy amounts of money and work crazy hours in order to earn money to pay the high mortgage on the family home that the family doesn't really exist in anymore. They should be focusing on earning enough so that they can be there for their children at dinner time. So that is what I did, Marissa. I built a business where I am at the dinner table every night with my girls, because they're with me most of the time. And that was a huge decision, but one that I have never regretted. And I mean, now I'm, building an absolutely thriving business and doing way better than I was back then. But at the time, it was a really scary time. And I know that there are a lot of women who are in a similar position who find themselves in that position. So, and it's probably not something that I talk about enough, that what is possible when you do go out on your own, that freedom, that life that you can create for yourself. And yes, it is a juggle, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I'm so glad you made the decision to lean in fully into your business and go down that pathway, because I think at some point we're all faced with that sort of fork in the road decision moment, right? And we think, oh, if you go and get a regular job, you get all this perceived security from it, because you're right. You get holidays, you get sick pay, you get super payments, you've got an income that you can rely on, that you're going to get on a regular basis. And then we all kind of think, well, entrepreneurship and having my own business, yes, it'll give me the freedom to do what I want to do, but there's no guaranteed income. But actually, you can get fired at any point. Your company that you work for can go under at any point. There's no actual security out there anymore. And in your business, if you don't have a business plan and you don't have a vision and you're not taking actions towards your goals, I can understand that whole worry about income being unpredictable. But actually, as soon as we learn to put a few tweaks into our business planning and get a little bit more strategic with the decisions that we're making and do the things that are hard, like everybody hates sales at first. I can't sell, I can't do any selling. But actually, if you were at work working in a sales team, you'd be selling every day, right? Because you'd have a script, you'd have a KPI to meet. We just need to take that emotion away and think about, okay, if this was a job, how would I do it? And then actually we have unlimited earning potential in our businesses. Unlimited freedom.
We absolutely do. Far more so. I mean, I am earning way more now than I would have if I'd have taken that corporate role. I've well and truly replaced the salary that I was earning when I was in TV land. Well, I mean, media's notoriously terribly paid anyway, but and I am doing the stuff that absolutely sets my soul on fire, and I get to support other women building their businesses. It is just, it's a great feeling. I mean, it's a decision that I never regret making.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it. I remember I left corporate because I had this really awkward thing happen. And I think I've told this story before, but the person that was involved, I don't know if has heard me talk about it in public, but basically what happened is I was working corporate. I was getting rostered on for shifts that just didn't align with family life, but I wasn't getting offered the travel that I used to love as part of the job because I was a mum now, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
No one meant anything bad by it, but there were a lot of assumptions being made about my work-life balance that I just didn't feel in control of. And I remember I got fed up one day. And I thought I texted my husband a bit of a rant about my boss at the time, who is a lovely guy, but as a manager, we just didn't see eye to eye. And I had actually texted my rant to my manager at the time. And that was the moment for me. That was you know what? Corporate life isn't actually for me, or I wouldn't have even done that. That wouldn't have even happened, right? So for me, that was my fork in the road. That was my, you know what? No matter what, I have to make this work because I can't be in this situation over and over and over at different offices. It's not worth it.
Oh my God.
I know.
Nothing like, yes, an accidental text. But you know what? That somewhere subconsciously, not saying that you did it on purpose, but, I think, it was meant to be. And look at you now. If you can imagine if you were still in corporate.
Oh my goodness. No, I can't imagine my life any other way now. And the freedom to be able to make decisions without stressing about budget, or the freedom to be able to decide when I'm working and how long for, because I only like to work a couple of hours a day. Being able to do that and actually still have a thriving business. I didn't even think that was possible at the start, but I think a lot of it came down to not winging it and not being emotional about the way I ran my business. And that's why I'm so excited to talk to you today, because with systems and processes and things like that, that helps us remove that emotional tie we have to like the worst outcome that can happen and actually boost confidence as well as productivity, right?
100%, 100%.
So if we know that, though, as entrepreneurs, because a lot of us business owners know that systems and processes make work smoother, make things easier, make things repeatable, make things easy to outsource, why do you think then we delay actually implementing or struggle with adding systems and processes to our businesses?
I liken systems to being a little bit like eating our greens or going to the dentist, right? That's how people look at them. It's like whenever I bring up the word systems, if I talk about it, even one-on-one to my one-on-one clients or in a group setting or whatever, it always freaks people out unless people make a living out of, being a systems and processes superstar. 90% of the time it is this absolute freak out because they think that it is so much more complicated than what it is. And, a bit like going to the dentist or eating our greens or whatever, it's like, we know we will be better for it. We know that it is the right thing to do. And, we're protecting our future self and we're, enabling us to outsource and scale and all the rest of it. But knowing something and doing something about it are two really very different things. And I think it's one of those things that because there's not necessarily someone banging on the door going, where are your systems? Where are your systems? Like a lot of it is for us internally in our businesses. So it's one of those things that we can keep putting to the side. We can keep burying our head in the sand and going, I don't need systems. I don't have a team. I don't need systems. What do I need systems for? But usually what happens is that you end up needing the systems because there is an opportunity cost. It's like that. I mean, we've all heard that saying of like entrepreneurship is like jumping out of a plane and building the parachute on the way down. Yeah. You're essentially building your systems on the way down if you operate that way. Do you want to operate that way? Or wouldn't it be just really nice to know that you're jumping out of that plane with a really functional parachute in your backpack that's going to open beautifully and you're just going to sail down to the ground and look at the clouds and have a really lovely, like that. Wouldn't you just love to live your life that way? So when people sort of, do that like mindset shift, instead of thinking of it as this overcomplicated, cumbersome, burdensome thing that they need to do in their business, that's when we can kind of, flip that switch into going, okay, maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The benefits totally outweigh the effort involved. And honestly, we exhaust ourselves trying to react to everything and do it in the moment when we don't have systems. So we're actually working way harder when we delay implementing some sort of system or process in the business. Yeah. So it's that long-term thought. It's like when my doctor said to me, hey, your blood pressure's super high. If you can lose a little bit of weight, that'd be great. And I'm like, oh, fine. Yes, I want to live to 100. Yes, I don't want my heart to be in trouble, blah, blah. I didn't get serious about it until I actually found a way to do it that felt good for me, made it easy to actually action it, and I could start to see results from it. And I'm like, oh, I just systemized my own healthcare. Like that's what it took. When I was just trying not to eat Doritos, it was difficult. But when I knew what I could eat and what time I could go for a walk, and that's a terrible example. It's a terrible metaphor, but you get what I'm saying, right?
But it's relatable. That people can relate to that because we should all be taking care of our health, right? But it comes back to what I said earlier. It's like we know that we should do the right things, but knowing it and doing it are completely different. Yeah.
Two different things entirely. Yeah. That's so true. So for the people out there who are going, yes, I know I need systems, I know I need processes, but I've never actually seen any in an entrepreneurial format before, or I've never seen systems and processes that small business owners have used. How do you make systems as pain-free as possible? Because these guys are saying, I do want to implement it. I do want to set it up, but I'm already busy working for existing clients, or I'm already hustling trying to get the next client or the next customer, or I'm already, cutting off work at 5 p.m. so I can spend time with my family. So how do they fit it in? How do you actually physically do it?
Yeah. So, I'm going to let you all in on a little secret is that you're already doing it. You are all already doing it, because if you're doing something more than once, you're following a process. The problem is that process is in your head. It's caught up in your brain. And what it's doing by staying there in your brain, so every time you send an invoice, every time you bring in a new client and onboard them, every time you respond to a sales inquiry, every time you post on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you post your social media, every time you do that, there is a process that you're following. But right now that's inside your brain, and it is taking up really precious mental real estate. And what often helps with people in terms of like getting them to do something is to really to understand why. And because for the rebels in the group, and I'm sure there are lots that listen who are like, I don't want to be restricted by systems and structure. I'm a free spirit. But the thing is that there's actually freedom in having these systems and structure, because once you've got it then frees up all that beautiful mental real estate that you've taken up remembering all the steps in your process. And it lets you then be, have free thoughts, have creative thoughts, have, that visionary thinking that you as the founder of your business, you should be, thinking that way anyway. So if you think of systems and processes as like the scaffolding for your creativity, okay? Because with all of that functional stuff taken care of, then you've got that space to think and dream and come up with brilliant ideas to build your business. So just sort of remembering that it's not to cage you in, all right? And you're already doing it now. But what we want to do is find the most simple and usable way to capture all that stuff in your brain. And as I mentioned earlier, Marissa, it's like people do really overcomplicate this because they get fixated on what tech should I use? What apps should I be using? I know so-and-so and they're part of, such and such business group and they use this. Or in my last business, we had this platform that we used, but, it was so complicated and no one used it. It's like, that's right. The best systems are the ones that get used. So for you, it could be like a really sexy, sophisticated piece of software that helps you do it. For others, it could be a Google Sheet. It could be a Google Doc. It could be videos that you created in Canva or on Loom or whatever. There's so many different ways that you can capture all of those steps in your brain. But the idea is we want to tip out the contents of your brain and catch it somewhere, but it doesn't need to be complicated, because the more complicated you make it, the less likely you are to use it.
That is so true. So it's okay to set up systems and set up processes in a way that aligns with your natural way of working then. Like if you're a talker, you can do like a screen share video and talk your way through it. Or if you're a writer, you can write down step by step. Can you actually do it as you're doing the thing? Like if I was doing a system or a process for how to handle customer service emails or onboarding emails, I could probably just wait till I had a client that I was onboarding and then document it as I was actually doing it, right?
That is the most efficient way of doing this. And I think, coming back to what you said, is it okay to? You're the boss. You're the boss. You're allowed to run your business however the hell you like. As what you want to do is tap into your unique way of working, okay? You do not need to follow the big corporate like rules and regulations and guidelines. And just because your business bestie does something one way doesn't mean that you need to do it. The best systems are the ones that get utilized. You can spend 3 weeks creating videos and setting them all up in beautiful folders on your Google Drive or whatever, and it may never be referred to again. And then and I've had this issue with, I was talking to a client of mine, this was 2 weeks ago, because she was like she was so frustrated because their output had plummeted because people were asking so many questions of like their coworkers. And when we kind of went back upstream and kind of went, well, what's going on? It was like they'd implemented this whole new like project management system. And of course, all the training was self-paced videos. Did any of these kids watch the videos? No. It's easier just to ask the person sitting beside them. So it's like you really need to know yourself. You need to know, your team and the way that you want your business to run and what's going to work best for you, and tap into that. And even if it is basic, a Google Doc, a Word doc, whatever, anything, as long as it gets used.
So what we really need to do then is ditch that whole imposter syndrome we're feeling of, I need to do it the professional way. I need to do it like this successful business owner does it. Like, yeah, no, that's not actually the case. Your biz bestie might turn around 3 weeks from now and go, hey, I like your system way better than mine.
Yes. Or just turn around and say, oh, that piece of software that I paid $1,200 a year for, I use it, 3 times a year kind of thing. And look, Marissa, I see behind the scenes of so many, in inverted commas here, successful businesses. These are people who, have huge platforms, huge profiles, and their systems, the best ones, are usually really, really basic, because it's just a matter of, done is better than perfect, has to be caught somewhere, and they do not have the time or the resources to evaluate every single option on the market. So it's like, and the great thing about capturing it somewhere simple to start with is that once you've caught it somewhere, then it is easier to upgrade as your business evolves. So if you are bringing in, if it's starting out and it's just you, and then you're bringing in team, and then you're bringing in more team members or what have you, once you've got it somewhere, it's then easy for someone to integrate, so many of these, pieces of software. It's like you can import from an Excel spreadsheet or whatever. So don't be afraid to start simple, knowing that maybe one day you could pimp it up a bit. It's possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So guys, if you're out there listening and you're thinking, hey, I am writing processes, but I'm just putting them in my notes app as I think of them, that's fine. That's fine. And later on, you know what? You might even have a team member that goes, hey, I've got some free time. Do you want me to take the systems and processes from your notes app and stick them in a Google Drive? Like it could just happen
exactly
naturally.
right. And that's what I do see with a lot of, because a lot of the women that I support, they're sort of stepping out of being a solopreneur and into having a team. And that is usually one of the initial tasks that they have for their new team members. It's like, and also they not only, pimp up the system, but they also refine it, because there is nothing better than when you've got someone else going through your process, especially if they're more expert in an area than you are. They might go, these 3 steps that we've just done here, there's actually one step that we could do that would knock those 3 out, but it's like that outside influence,
fresh eyes,
the fresh eyes that come in. So that's the thing. I think the other thing with systems too, and not to freak people out even more, but it's not set and forget, because things do evolve as your business evolves. So it's like just starting really simply and then building on that, and not feeling like, you need to have this really tricked out, automated, bells, whistles, singing, dancing girls, all the rest of it that I think a lot of people feel like their systems need to be to start off with, and they just don't.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. So I guess really the best takeaway I got from there was, if there's a particular system or software or app that I gravitate towards naturally, start documenting my systems there.
Yeah.
Then go from there as I grow, as I expand, as I have help with it. Then we can turn it into something more polished later. But the point is just get it out of my head and get it written down somewhere, or recorded or documented somewhere.
Yes.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a lot better. And I know a lot of people listening today will feel like, okay, great. Well, that's doable. Yeah. That's awesome. So what exactly do you start with though? So if you're thinking, okay, well, I've got so many things that I do in my business, where do we start? Is there a more important area? Like, should it be our sales system is the most important because that makes money, so that should be documented first? Or is it our admin? Or like, do you have a particular flow that you recommend to clients, or is it just depend on the type of business?
So, look, it does depend on the type of business, but there's a couple of ways that you could look at this. So because I'm very operational focused, so I just like to have that kind of one source of truth, one place where, it's kind of like the office Bible, even though it's you, just, potentially just you in your business. It's like that go-to sheet, like I call it like my business control center, and it's literally where you've captured everything about your business. So things like your ABN number, you are going to be asked for your ABN number so many times, and it is usually at the most inopportune moment. You're filling in a form online, and then it's like, what's your ABN number? I'm like, I don't bloody know I marvel. There are people in this world who know credit card numbers and ABN numbers off the top of their head. I am not one of those people. I've never been one of those people. I think because they're not, like, numbers aren't important to me in that way. Like, I could tell you, celebrity facts, but I couldn't tell you what my ABN number was. Yes, off the top of my head. So that's probably a good way to start. But I think the other thing to consider is what is the thing that you're doing the most in your business? So hopefully it is sales. Hopefully it is bringing in new clients. So, is it your client onboarding process? Because remember, what we want to do is just empty out that mental real estate that's being taken up by all of these steps, because, there's so much about what we do that is rinse and repeat, or, refine as well along the way. But if you can capture the things that you're doing the most frequently, another place is to consider where you want to get help the quickest. So for some people, it's finance, because that is often, bookkeeping is often one of the first things that gets outsourced in a small business. So you want to have a process set up in terms of like how, how your finances run, and, maybe your bookkeeper could help you with that if that's, something that you need to focus on. But just be also wary of, what I said before about it being your business. It's your business. It's your business. And yes, the experts are going to advise you, but, things need to work for you. But when you're starting to work with other people, this is where systems really help, because it helps your business become bigger than just you. So look for where the pain is, but for God's sake, do not, the thing that always like makes my blood run cold is when people go, so this quarter, I'm just focusing on systems and processes. And that to me just equals, I'm just going to procrastinate. I'm going to avoid doing all other work and just focus on creating systems and processes, because the best time to do it is when you're actually doing the thing. So like you said, Marissa, if you're in the middle of a sales call, document the steps that, what you do before and after and all of that kind of thing. Like just, when you're in the mode, just look for a way to capture it, and do it that way, as opposed to setting aside a whole chunk of time and doing nothing else than systems and processes, unless you are someone who's completely obsessed with systems. And there are those people, they do exist, but it's definitely probably not the most inspiring way to go about it.
I think you're so right too, because if I'm actually in the moment doing the activity, I'm not going to miss anything. Whereas if I'm sitting down going, right, and it happens everywhere in life. I remember once years and years ago, I was going away for a few days and I had this brilliant idea in my personal life that I would write down all of the things I did around the household and hand them to my husband and have like a little, like a little how-to guide.
Sheet, a little cheat sheet. How to keep the house running while I'm not here. And it's 45 pages long, because that's all the things that you do.
It's like those old encyclopedias where there's 34 books in there. But yeah, the funny thing was I was writing down all this stuff, and then at one point I looked over it a few days later and I was actually going, hang on a minute, if I did it that way, this would happen and this would happen and this problem would happen. And I had imagined the process to be perfect, but when I actually actioned it, it was nothing like what I physically did when I did it. And I think the same would happen at work too. There are systems that I could jot down all of the steps that I'm doing for, say, client onboarding now, but I bet I'm going to miss something that just happens naturally as I complete the task. And if I handed that off to a team member or delegated it to somebody else at this point, they'd be like, yeah, I got stuck halfway through. So doing it and recording it at the same time makes so much sense from that perspective. Yeah.
And that's where, so if you were, if you're listening to this now and you think, God, that sounds like a really great idea, Loom is fantastic for that. Creating a Loom video, which literally records your screen, you talk to it and say, and now I'm opening up this file and I'm like, fantastic, like easy, simple. And, maybe one day down the track, those videos get transcribed or what have you. But again, caught somewhere, not inside your brain.
And I love that transcription. Yeah. That was awesome. I'm like, yeah, you can put it in that otter.ai app and get it transcribed as well. And then you don't even have to do any extra work.
That's right. That's right.
Speaking to my soul. I am loving it. Michelle, you have so many great ways of looking at things like this. And I really like the way that now systems and processes don't feel like a big deal anymore. They actually just feel like something that's going to help. So thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us today. I have a feeling that you have just lowered the stress level of half of our listeners easily in this one conversation.
I really hope that I have. I think we just as business owners, we put way too much pressure on ourselves about so many things, where's the next client coming from? And, all of that stuff. Right. And I just think this is one of those things that, you don't want to keep putting in the too hard basket, but I don't want it to be one of those things that causes you pain and agony. There is freedom in this stuff. And I hope that I have lowered. I've lowered your stress levels somewhat.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the Business Control Center before, and I loved that. So can we share that with our listeners?
Absolutely. Okay? Yep, for sure. So there's a link that you can access, which is it's on michellebroadbent.com.au /control center. But yeah, you can download. That's like literally your jumping off point. If you've got nothing in your business, if you don't know where to start and you just think, okay, what the hell do I even start with in terms of systems? This is your go-to document.
Yeah, that sounds like it'll be a really big help straight away. So I'll make sure I've got a link in the show notes too. So it's really easy for people to find that when they're listening, and they can make that their thing for this week that makes running their business easier. Because isn't it nice to have something you can just do in a short space of time that kind of gets that ball rolling and gets that momentum building to, free yourself up even more. I love it. Thank you so much. And for anybody who is listening today, I really, really hope that you got some value out of our conversation, because I got so many great ideas and I am so excited to go and start actioning them. I'll make sure that we've got Michelle's contact details, like your website and your socials, in the show notes as well, if that's cool with you, Michelle, just so that people can find you if they need to.
Yeah. I'd love, please come and connect with me. Marissa will share all my contacts, but yes, I would love to connect with you and let me know how you are going with your systems in your business. What one action you've taken from today. It makes me so happy to hear when people jump in and take action straight away.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to hear how everybody goes with it. And I will see you all in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.